It's another edition of Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the films of May 9th, 2003. Only two movies to look at today, so like last week, we don't really have a lot to look at, but they're notable films nonetheless. So let's go ahead and just jump on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Eddie Murphy in the surprise hit, and I mean a literal surprise hit, Daddy Daycare. Yeah, I'm just as baffled as you are. How the hell did this movie become a hit and actually spawn a franchise of films? Because everybody knows about Daddy Day Camp, but you probably don't know that there was actually a third film of this series, and that's because it went straight to video and was not even released by Sony. Even Sony, after the second film, was just like, we're not doing this anymore. And so Universal said, we'll do the third film, Granddaddy Daycare, which came out not too long ago, actually. Almost 5 years ago, as of the time of recording this, 2019. But, anyway, this is Daddy Daycare. This is actually the second film for Eddie Murphy and director Steve Carr after what they did with Dr. Dolittle 2, which was a fun sequel for what it was, but this they might have been pushing their luck here. You have two fathers, Murphy and Jeff Garlin, who start a child daycare out of their home after they're laid off from their corporate jobs. And the trailers, I think, pretty much sum up why the movie doesn't work. Although I will say that gross out joke, it's with the kid peeing all over the place, and I think going number two as well as the commercials trying to indicate, like, I mean, it is kind of amusing just to see Eddie Murphy's reaction, looking at the floor and then looking up in the ceiling, just like, how the hell did you do that? Like, I'll give him credit. That was actually pretty clever how they did that. But yeah, everything else about this movie is just pretty bland. It's not even that it's a bad movie. It's just kind of like a film that's just like, we've seen this done before. The Simpsons did this already 2 years prior, where Homer ends up getting injured, and so he starts up a daycare inside of his home. And I would be surprised if this writer stole that plot, because it's pretty much that same thing, except let's do the same plot for The Simpsons, except we'll make it kid friendly, we'll make it PG, and we'll make it not as funny as this is. And this guy, Jeff Rodkey, I'm trying to see what else he did, and, well, this is depressing. He's actually written some decent stuff here. Like, he was a writer on Beavis and Butthead. He was on Politically Incorrect. He wrote for Late Line, a criminally underrated Al Franken show. He's written some films that were actually kind of fun for what they were, like The Shaggy Dog, the Tim Allen one, which should not have worked, but surprisingly did, as did RV. But then again, he also did stuff like the sequel Daddy Day Camp and Good Luck Charlie, It's Christmas. So, in a way, I should be disappointed, but considering what's after this movie, I shouldn't be that surprised. But bottom line, you have what you expect in a movie like this. You've got a lot of things that you expect this film to have that's going to be like a predictable, cliched, riddled kids film. Nothing too funny, nothing too amazing about it. Just, it shuts the kids up, and it's for something that's like, if you're babysitting somebody's kids and you want to watch a movie, I guess it's fine for that. But the craziest thing about this movie was how successful this movie really was, because this thing brought in $160 million worldwide over a $60 million budget. Considering that Eddie Murphy had just had three of the biggest flops of his career with Showtime, Pluto Nash, and an I Spy the year before, it's just like, I just couldn't believe that this was actually the big success that it was. And, like, even by the time that second film came out, nobody really even cared about that second film when it came out. But they did it anyway because the first film was so successful. And, I mean, I don't know. I mean, me personally, it's a film that I clearly can see not really working out as well. It's a film that's clearly what it's intended to be. For little kids, it's fine for what it is. There's nothing really that harmless. Let me rephrase that. It's a very harmless film. It does exactly what you think it's going to do. And I've seen far worse movies that have stooped to such lower standards than this movie does. I mean, the second film in the series does that. So, if you would want a bad movie with Daddy Daycare in front of it, wait until we get to the second one, which unfortunately went to theaters. So, of course, when we get to 2007 and that movie comes out, I have to talk about it. Yay! Yeah, that's Daddy Daycare, which, yeah, it is what it is. So, let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, and that is Ewan McGregor and Renee Zellweger in the period romantic comedy Down with Love. starting to see why this guy almost got the Fantastic Four. I mean, he was going to direct the Fantastic Four movie in 2005, but I guess creative differences played a huge part of him not getting it. But it really would have been interesting to see what he would have done with Fantastic Four. But he turned out to be a pretty good superhero director with the Ant-Man films. Most of the Ant-Man films. The third one, not so much. But Down with Love, as you can tell, it's very much an homage to the 1960s American no-sex sex comedies such as Pillow Talk and Lover Come Back, which features Rock Hudson, Doris Day, and Tony Randall, who coincidentally is in this movie. And the film is essentially centers around a woman played by Renee Zellweger who advocates female independence in combat with Lothario. The plot reflects the attitudes and behavior of the early pre-sexual revolution 1960s, but has an anachronistic conclusion driven by most media and post-feminist ideas and attitudes, with Ewan McGregor being being the love interest in this movie. And it is a film that I actually really do admire for what they do here. It's not just a great homage to those 1960s movies I talked about, but it's just a film that it just works on so many levels, from the visual aspect to the comedic aspects to the fact that they got as many notable talents in this film as they could. I mean, we're not only talking about Renee Zellweger and Ewan McGregor, but Sarah Paulson, David Hyde Pierce, Rachel Dratch, Tony Randall, like I said, Jack Plotnick, Jerry Ryan, Melissa George, Chris Parnell's in the film as well. You could tell that this film is just a loving satire of the 1960s movies of the time, but also doing it in a modern setting, which I really give it a lot of credit for doing. And some people said the chemistry between Renee Zellweger and Ewan McGregor didn't work here. I disagree. I think it works very well. These are two very talented actors who know what they're doing. And for Ewan McGregor, it's a chance to show him outside of his norm, because at this point he was mostly known for playing Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars movies. This was one of the first real films that actually gave him an opportunity to show what he can do outside of Star Wars. And his star power slowly began to take shape after this, because he would follow this up with Big Fish, which is another great movie with him, but we'll get to that at the end of the year. I really like this movie, man. I think it's a very well-made film, a very underrated romantic comedy, and just shows the power of what Peyton Reed can do as a director. This is the guy that did Bring It On before this, and it just shows what he can do as a filmmaker overall. It's a really good film. I really love it. It's a very underrated little gem. I highly recommend checking it out. Down with Love. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. And the next time we meet, we'll take a look at two more movies, including what is arguably the most anticipated film of the summer, and that is the sequel to The Matrix Reloaded. And only one movie has the balls to go up against The Matrix, and that is Pokemon. As not even after 6 months after the last movie came out, Miramax puts out the next Pokemon movie on the same weekend as The Matrix, which pretty much tells you they had no real hope of really keeping that series going, as it was pretty much basically dead and buried at that point. Pokemon Heroes, we will take a look at that along with The Matrix Reloaded on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.